All right, hello everybody, and welcome to our YouTube channel. My name is Brittany,
And I'm Jonathan.
and we are married. And we've been watching a couple of YouTube channels over the past few years, and have really enjoyed watching some other couples do this, and figured why not take the chance and do some of it on our own. This channel will cover movies, games, pop/collections, and wrestling, and all of that we enjoy watching and doing together. So we are going to go ahead in the first few episodes and just kind of tell you some of our top 10 favorite things. For this one, we decided we'd go ahead and start with movies, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah. So we each picked our top 10 in no particular order, and then we also picked out 5 honorable mentions. So we kind of cheat.
Yeah, we cheated just because it was way too difficult. All right.
For sure.
Did you want to get started?
Yeah, so I'll start us out.
All right.
So these are honorable mentions first.
Oh.
So number 1, it's going to be the classic The Thing. What needs to be said about it? Incredible special effects, incredible story, amazing gore. Kurt Russell's the man. Scary, funny, creepy.
Yeah.
Love it.
I
Love
had
it.
never actually seen it until he showed it to me, and as someone who loves horror movies, I was actually surprised that I had never seen it, as was he. But it is definitely a great movie. This is the original that you chose?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the remake, I'd say, was really good as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of CGI, but it probably gets more hate than it deserves. But just missed the top 10. But a great movie.
And I will actually just go ahead and start with one that's in my top 10, or should I keep going with honorable mentions first?
Let's finish up honorable mentions.
Okay, gotcha. So, for some people, this might be crazy, but I picked Star Wars The Force Awakens to go in an honorable mention. And for some people, I'm sure this is automatically maybe one that could go in their top 10. For myself, I picked it as an honorable mention simply because for myself growing up, I definitely watched and owned Star Wars and had it on VHS. However, I felt like it was just at a time where maybe I didn't truly understand the hype around it. And I think that they did a great job with this one, getting me hooked and reeled in enough to appreciate the original ones. And I think that for some of us who maybe missed the hype around it, I think it was a great reintroduction into that world to get excited about.
Yeah, and it seems like the biggest complaint is it's kind of a retelling of A New Hope. Well, it's not kind of. It's definitely a retelling of A New Hope, but I think it kind of got the story back on track. The new characters are great. Rey's amazing. Finn's great. Even BB-8's great.
Awesome.
Kylo Ren is one of my favorite characters now.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
In fact, on the poster that's behind this camera is a new Force Awakens movie poster.
Yeah.
So it is an honorable mention for sure. Again, this was so tough to do, but definitely would say an honorable mention for sure.
So I'm actually going to knock the next 2 out at the same time because they kind of fall in the same category of my favorite movies as a kid that I felt like I had to sneak in here. First one's going to be Aladdin. Probably my favorite Disney animated movie of all time.
No, probably it is.
Robin Williams is classic. The genie might be the greatest character in Disney history. Who knows? Funny. The songs are great. Classic. And then as a big basketball fan, Space Jam is on there. It's a classic.
Absolutely.
Nothing else needs to be said. But for childhood nostalgia, I'm putting those 2 together.
All right. So the next one for me would be Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So as this channel goes along, you'll learn that I love any and everything all Harry Potter. But it's so hard. Really, it's like I don't want that to take up my top 10 just because I feel like that whole world could be lumped up into one that I love. But the Order of the Phoenix is definitely one that I go back and forth with and love so much. But it's also one that definitely breaks my heart at the same time, and I'm sure I don't feel like there's many spoilers to this. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're waiting for, but I just love it. I think Sirius Black dying definitely tugs at your heartstrings in this one. I definitely cried like a baby reading the book, and even more so seeing it in the movie. But I loved the darkness to this movie, as well as late. In a lot of these, really, once you get to the third one, it does become a little bit darker, and you get more into the story And I think that horror fan in me loves the darkness brought into this world and really portrayed on screen. And I just think it's such a beautiful one to watch. Really, the last scene with Voldemort and Dumbledore, that scene by itself I could watch over and over again. Just so well done, really fascinating. So definitely an honorable mention, but really Harry Potter could take up all of my top 10 if I'd let it.
And if you can't tell, all of those pops lined in the top are all Harry Potter. So
I don't think there's a single one missing. That will definitely be like a segment of videos. I definitely don't want to. I have enough Harry Potter stuff to take up maybe 10 episodes or so. So get ready. I'll find ways to break them up and keep it interesting for you guys.
Yeah. You can go ahead and do another one since I did too.
Okay, so next up I have The Prestige. Growing up in high school, this was just a movie that I just loved to put on again and again, and I just beautiful movie. I think Christian Bale, his acting in the movie is just really amazing. I don't know. I don't know if it's a movie that really gets as much love as it deserves. I don't feel like you see very much around it, but I think it's just such a wonderful story. I don't really know what else to say. It's just really good, and it's always been one that I enjoy watching, and if I just happen to see it on TV, I definitely stop to watch it.
I feel like it got a lot of praise, but people just don't talk about it now as much.
Right.
Maybe because it came out in the middle of him doing all the Dark Knight movies.
True.
So maybe it kind of went under the radar.
Yeah, but it's just absolutely, I think, it's just a great movie, and I don't want to definitely forget that Hugh Jackman's in it as well, but I mean, I love everything about this movie.
Hugh Jackman might be one of the best people.
Yeah,
it seems like.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot of great movies.
So this one actually has a sequel coming out this year, I believe, and that's going to be Creed as another one of my honorable mentions. Big fan of most of the older Rocky movies. Of course, Rocky 1. I actually think Rocky 4 might be my favorite. Of course, that's, I think, the first one I actually ever watched, so maybe I'm a little biased on that. I mean, if you haven't seen Creed or Black Panther, Michael B. Jordan is the man. Sylvester Stallone in this is incredible. I mean, the fight scenes are amazing, but, I mean, really just the drama between them two and him, struggling with, obviously Apollo Creed being his dad. I mean, everything about this movie was just really kind of caught me off guard. I was kind of like, oh man, another Rocky sequel, like really? But, I mean, who knew? This movie's excellent if you have not watched it.
And just a side note to this movie, I still haven't watched it myself, and he actually just watched it this year, but I definitely plan on getting around to it because he absolutely loves it. And again, I mean, Michael B. Jordan has had some phenomenal roles over the past few years, so I definitely want to give it a watch for that reason as well.
We'll be catching the second one in theaters for sure.
All right, so next up I have Hocus Pocus. And I love Hocus Pocus. Sometimes going back and watching it, it can be a little cringe, but like I've told him, because I don't even know if he's made it through the entire movie with me, but when you've watched it and you've loved it as a child, that's it. Like, the end, I can still go back and watch and be like, oh man. But I absolutely love Hocus Pocus. I think it's so fun. I feel like it's one that I can absolutely watch, with or without it being Halloween, but definitely when it's that time of year, this movie's going in, or it's definitely on TV all the time. I forget, what is it, Family Channel, ABC, whatever that channel. I was saying it's probably on Disney Channel. Oh, and then we not only that, we got lucky and on our honeymoon went to Disney around Halloween. And during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, it was actually Hocus Pocus last year, so that was super exciting for me. We didn't even know about it, so that was super exciting to get to catch and see some of those scenes kind of reacted and relived. It was so fun and exciting, so definitely love Hocus Pocus. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch. It's fun, so yeah, definitely an honorable mention.
So my last honorable mention is going to be Forgetting Sarah Marshall. This movie is so funny to me. I mean, Russell Brand he's funny, but not too over the top, like maybe some of his later movies were, where he's kind of the, maybe the main star of the movie. I mean, just...
He definitely played his role really well in this movie.
this whole kind of group of movies, I kind of lump this and 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up. I kind of group those all together. They're all classics to me, and this just barely missed the top 10. But if you haven't seen this, hilarious movie.
All right, and last for mine would be Kick-Ass. So I last minute thought of this, but I don't know how I forgot it. I guess just, you know, all these new super serious action movies have come out around superheroes. But I think, like, this movie was just so fun and had an amazing group of characters. I'm terrible with actor names, so forgive me. I'll try to get better as this goes along, but McLovin, that's what I'll just call him, in this movie was so fun and exciting. And then Chloe.
Grace Moretz.
Yes, yeah, she's awesome. I mean, just really the whole cast. It just... Now, here's a funny thing.
The best part about this being in her honorable mention is that her deep hatred for Nick Cage, and yet here we are.
Right, and I wouldn't even say it's not a hatred. It's just the fact that he plays himself in every movie. But I felt like this was appropriate. This was perfect, and I'm fine. I remember he's in this movie, and I still love this movie, and it is an honorable mention. So there you go, Nicolas Cage. I gave you something, and you'll probably, if we ever do a video about like terrible movies, they'll probably all just say Nicolas Cage. Just kidding. He's okay in some
Nick Cage sidebar, Mom and Dad is also an excellent movie that he's been in recently where he's probably just playing himself, but he's super crazy, and it's amazing.
There's a time and a place to play yourself, and there's certain movies he's okay in it, because I do like Gone in 60 Seconds, isn't he in that one? And National Treasure, so there are movies that I like that he's in, but then there's others I'm just like, oh, yeah, this is just him playing himself, so it's like he definitely needs to stick with certain roles, and I say he was perfect in this one.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get into our actual top 10. Once again, this is in no order because that would be impossible. It took us long enough to even pick these out, much less to order them. So here we go. So start my top 10 is American Werewolf in London.
It's a great one.
I've actually never seen American Werewolf in Paris. That might be a good thing from the way everybody talks about it, but kind of like I mentioned with The Thing, the transformation from human to werewolf in this, the effects are just incredible,
especially for the time. And
it's once again it's the perfect blend of being pretty terrifying, funny. That end scene where they back the spoiler alert, I guess, where they back the werewolf into the back alley, and and his girlfriend or whatever is just kind of watching this happen. I mean, it's incredible from start to finish. It's funny, it's scary, and I mean, it's worth it for the special effects alone, but I mean, the movie itself is just incredible.
Yeah, so sorry if as we're doing it, there's spoilers, but some of these, in all fairness, have been out a little long enough that I'm sure there's some spoilers in there for some of these. So definitely, I wouldn't say this is a spoil-friendly video, but we'll do the best we can.
Also, is it sad that this is the second movie that we have 2 copies of because we double-dipped because of the slipcover? Don't judge.
Well, as you go through the Harry Potter movies, we probably have 4 or 5 copies of them. So
the special editions, the steel books, the 4K.
It is what it is.
We have a problem.
So, speaking of, we will go ahead and go with my favorite Harry Potter movie, and that would be The Prisoner of Azkaban. And I will just say that the reason why this would be my favorite would just be, again, I believe at the time when they came out with this one, and I could be wrong, so not some super expert or anything like that, but I believe they transitioned directors, and I think that's when you kind of saw a little bit of a darkness to some of the films. And I mean, also as the story goes along, in all fairness, you do kind of get a little bit more deeper into a story that's really not such a happy story. But I just love The Prisoner of Azkaban. I think it's just, I don't know what it is.
Well, I think some of it just comes also with the age of the characters. I mean, as they mature, I mean, in real life and in the movie, you do just kind of, I guess, maybe naturally get some of that more adult tone.
You have Hermione punching Malfoy in the face, I mean, you already knew she was badass, but to let her go on and hit him in the face, I thought that was really, really awesome.
Well, and Sirius Black's just a badass.
Yeah, Sirius Black is just, I mean,
Awesome.
you love him, and again, 5 R.I.P. But I mean, I enjoyed my time with him.
R.I.P. Sirius Black.
Yeah. And then I mean that scene at the when the Dementors are coming down. I just think they just did such an amazing job. It's just so beautifully well done, in my opinion. So again, this is one of my favorites of a definitely difficult series to pick a favorite of, but The Prisoner of Azkaban is it.
Yep. So next up for me is one that I don't feel like gets talked about a whole lot, and that's Up in the Air. I also really like Juno, done by the same director, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the chemistry between the cast or what it is, but I just can't get enough of this movie. I mean, I don't know. I guess it has a unique setting, and the job that George Clooney and Anna Kendrick have, where they're hired to essentially go and lay off people at different companies, is kind of unique to me. Is it Vera Farmiga? I think is how you say her name. The girl from the Insidious movies, Bates Motel. She's excellent. George Clooney's excellent. Anna Kendrick's excellent.
It's very good.
It's funny. It's got a great story to it. I don't know. It's just super entertaining to me, and I can just constantly watch it. I don't know what it is about it. It's kind of hard to pinpoint. It's just
I had never, I think, heard of it.
Yeah.
Or let alone seen it until you had me watching it. It's really.
And I just think the relationship between George Clooney, who's kind of old and kind of curmudgeonly, and then you have Anna Kendrick, who's fresh out of school and kind of super dramatic, like the scene where her boyfriend breaks up with her and all that stuff, and he's just staring at her like, oh my god. But this movie's awesome if you haven't seen it.
All right, and I'm sure I'm gonna have some people not so understanding of this, but The Notebook definitely lands in my top 10, and I will forever and always love this movie. Not to mention Ryan Gosling's in this movie, and he is definitely my love.
You can't even be mad at it.
My movie star love.
It is what it is.
I love this movie so much I can in fact remember my first time watching it, like at home. I didn't see it in theaters. I can tell you that whole day. Which is kind of weird, but I absolutely can. I love The Notebook. I think the story is just, I thought it was unique, and I can definitely see where some people could eye roll at this movie. And in fact, there's quite a few other movies that are done by, I don't know, I really can't even remember
Is it
the
Nicholas
person.
Sparks?
Yeah,
You're talking about the dude who writes the books?
Yeah, that I really personally don't care too much for myself. I think The Notebook gives me enough that I'm satisfied. There's very few mushy-gushy love movies that I'm personally into. I think just because this did it, and I love it, and I love it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe if all the other ones had Ryan Gosling in it, then I would have been sold. And I love Rachel McAdams. I think the pairing of those two is super cute, and I love that they were together in real life. Heartbroken that they're not, but hey, he's got a super banging wife right now in Eva Longoria, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I can't, but yeah, I just think the pairing of these two was amazing, and I just think their chemistry on screen definitely was portrayed, and they did a great job, because sometimes with love movies you don't see and feel that chemistry, and I think that they did a great job acting this movie.
Rachel McAdams is underrated comedically. I mean, we just watched Game Night, and I thought she was hilarious.
Yeah, she doesn't.
I thought that movie.
And I think she does a great job at not just showing up any and everywhere. I think she does a good job at definitely picking her roles. But I definitely enjoy her and love my Ryan Gosling.
I liked her in Red Eye, which I don't even think is out on Blu-ray. That's another kind of under the radar.
Yeah.
I guess horror movie or thriller.
Yeah, but if you just want to surprise your girlfriend and maybe watch a movie, The Notebook maybe might surprise her. So
next up for me is just, what do you got to say about Army of Darkness? I mean, I'm going to expose myself here for being a so-called horror fan. This was actually the first in the Evil Dead line that I actually watched. And I remember when HD DVD and Blu-ray were first coming out, and this came out on HD DVD, and people at work oh man, you've got to watch it. And I'm like, this looks so stupid. I have no idea what it is. Bought it on a whim, and it's the funniest movie ever. I mean, first of all, of course, I've gone back to watch the other Evil Dead movies. They're excellent. The remake is excellent. Ash vs. Evil Dead show is excellent. Basically, this is just a great series altogether. But Bruce Campbell is so funny. I mean, just
Yes.
it's ironic that I make fun of Hocus Pocus for being cheesy when I'm all about cheesy movies and cheesy one-liners. I mean, it's the monsters are cheesy, but the effects still look cool. His one-liners are cheesy. I mean, just the shop smart, shop S-smart. When he's blowing old ladies away in a in his little I don't even know what you want to call it, his little grocery store or whatever he works at. So funny, and just the effects from that, the way the little skeletons walk with like their shields and stuff, it's just so funny. This movie is just an all-time classic to me, and definitely in my top 10.
Yeah. Very
Oh my
fun
God.
movie. All right. So again, no order, but Guardians of the Galaxy. I just love this movie. I think it's so fun. I think, again, for somebody like me, I definitely appreciated the, I guess, superhero movies, but this one, just definitely for some people who maybe haven't, kept up with that all their lives and been into comic books, I thought this was just something maybe for us, even though there are comic books, so I don't know much about that. But I remember seeing the previews for this and thinking, what is this? Like, who are these people? But that preview was so amazing that I was like, I have to see this. And I love everything about everybody in this. I mean, Chris Pratt is awesome. Batista is so funny. Probably, I mean, one of the best roles he's probably ever played. I mean,
Zoe Saldana is somehow, I don't know if I said her last name right, but somehow still fine, even in all this makeup.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper as Rocket. I mean,
Yeah.
Vin Diesel, I guess, is Groot.
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
But the cast is stellar. And I had no idea what Guardians of the Galaxy even was until a buddy of mine called and was like, man, you have got to watch this trailer. I'm like, man, I really don't care. But then it showed some raccoon with dual machine guns flying around, and it's like, okay. And then we go
Yeah.
see it, and the movie's amazing.
Yeah, I think I went around, in fact, I have the soundtrack in my car, and I do listen to it just randomly. I get the urge to listen to the soundtrack, and he probably hates it, but I sing it so
Love it.
loud. Okay, so I sing it so loud and out of key. It just gets me so excited. So if you've not watched this, I don't know what you're waiting for. Definitely an amazing movie, and then go ahead and pick up the soundtrack because it's really fun too.
The second one's good too, and
Yes.
honestly, I actually thought Batista stole the show in Infinity War too.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude is so funny.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my God.
definitely one of his better roles.
So this next movie is just like my childhood summed up, and that's Dumb and Dumber. I mean, huge Jim Carrey fan. I mean, from this, Ace Ventura, The Mask, Liar Liar, even up to Yes Man was really good. Obviously not nearly as good as this one, but I even thought the actual sequel to Dumb and Dumber with him in it was better than expected. Now, granted, I had like rock bottom expectations for that, but I mean, just the
a hot
stupid
mess.
stuff. I mean, when he's driving that girl in the limo and not paying attention, and you see the explosions in the background from all the wrecks and stuff he's causing. I mean, he runs off the little terminal thing at the airport. I mean, there's just like laugh after laugh after laugh. It still holds up. I mean, the two of them on that little scooter when he trades the van in for it. I mean, God, there's just so many quotable scenes. When he tapes the bird's head back on and sells it to the
my
blind kid. I
goodness.
mean, oh my God. Like, every scene in this movie is just amazing. I watched this so much when I was younger and still do now. Just an absolute classic.
And I looked over, and I think your next one was actually, I don't know if I'm short one, but that was definitely in mine.
I feel like you have an extra movie.
Who knows? I cheated, maybe. Sorry.
Well, of course. Well, so I'll go ahead and do this since, so it'll be her top 11, my top 10. The Dark Knight.
Whew.
I'd probably say still probably my favorite superhero movie of all time. I think so. I mean, everyone knows how great Heath Ledger was. But not only that, but I mean, I think Aaron Eckhart has Two-Face underrated.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool how they were ballsy enough to kill off Rachel Dawes, a pretty, important character in this film, that they were ballsy enough to do that. Michael Caine as Alfred's awesome, even though he's got, the deep voice is weird. I don't understand it. I love the videos making fun of it, but Christian Bale's still a good Batman. And I don't know, I mean, just even the action in this, I mean, that sweet motorcycle he's got
Oh.
where the wheels turn, and I don't know why, but I'm
Amazing.
obsessed with that scene
That
where the 18-wheeler flips over. I don't know why I think that looks so cool. And
It-
watching the special features where it shows how they had, like, some sort of pillar or something that came down to flip it. I mean, it's just incredible to me.
Yeah, that movie, I mean, Heath Ledger in that movie, for me, definitely sold it. Again, someone who's a fan of just horror movies, and I was really actually scared of his character, not like, you know, oh my god, I can't watch this, but it was just, I was so convinced, and I think, I mean, he did a phenomenal job, and honestly, you know, I can't get mad at any, but I mean, the movie's going to go on. There's going to be other people who play this role, but I think he definitely owned that role the way nobody else ever has. And, you know, that doesn't take away from anybody else who has ever played him. They all play their characters, I think, in their version of the Joker very well. But for me, this would be my Joker. I just think he was so awesome. And same thing, that 18-wheeler scene, I remember seeing that and getting goosebumps. And even talking about it now, I still get goosebumps. It was just a brilliant
It's
movie.
kind of a messed up movie. I mean, that dude has the bomb, like, sewed into his stomach or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Definitely
pretty
dark.
weird. Yeah.
Dark
So,
night. Very dark.
I mean, Heath Ledger, I mean, what are you going to say? As a matter of fact, Heath Ledger's so good that I kind of forgive how bizarre Jared Leto looks because I
Right.
feel like they just attempted to do anything to kind of separate them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little more lenient on Jared Leto than
I think
other
most
people seem
are.
to be.
Yeah. All right. So next up, I have Grease. I love this movie. My grandmother introduced it to me, and you can almost guarantee if it's showtime for me because I'm singing, I'm dancing, I'm hand jiving. Like, I got all the moves for
The
this
hand
movie.
jive was at our reception for our wedding.
Yeah, so I mean, it's that
The real
serious. The real deal. I absolutely love this movie, and it was such a big part of my growing up. Like I said, I definitely watched it, spent many hours and, you know, times probably watching this back to back with my grandma and my sister, and I love it. John Travolta is just so fun. The whole cast, and for me, again, I'm not big on, you know, remembering actors or actress names, but the cast was just so fun, and I don't
John
know, like,
Travolta's got the moves.
yeah, and sometimes, you know, with movie, I've not watched the second one. It's almost kind of something that this is so special to me. I just feel like I don't want to ruin it. I don't really care to watch the second one. So if you've watched it, you love it just as much, leave a comment. I'll be happy to watch it. And I don't think I've watched that live.
We bought the collection that comes with the live version too.
Yeah, and I haven't watched that either. Like, again, it's just, you know, some things just mean so much to you that's just like, I'm going to leave it as is. And so if you've never watched this, it's definitely a fun one, especially if you're into musicals. I think it's just, you know, a good one to go ahead and throw on, and I think it's timeless too, so I think you could throw it in today and not feel like you were really, you know, going that far back. It's really fun.
So my next one we mentioned earlier, and that's going to be Knocked Up. To me, this is my favorite. So Judd Apatow, I think is how you say his name, did 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, This Is 40, Funny People. I feel like there's another one I'm missing. That one. Oh well. Anyway, but anyways, Knocked Up to me is my a train wreck with.
Oh yeah.
But this is my favorite out of all those. Probably my favorite Seth Rogen movie too. I think him and Katherine Heigl are amazing. I think there's actual. I mean, it's funny, but there's also real drama, and I feel like they make it believable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their interaction, their dialogue, and their scenes together. I feel like. I mean, obviously, I don't know what that scenario feels like, but I imagine that's pretty close. You know, his group of friends meshing with her family.
Right.
I'm also like a Paul Rudd kind of fanboy. You know, I don't know what it is. His movies are funny to me. I'm looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp. But yeah, Knocked Up to me is just so funny, so good.
Yeah, I'll say it's definitely one that, and they definitely play this one a lot. So I'd almost say a lot of people have got to enjoy this movie because I feel like I'm not familiar with these channels that these movies come on, but I feel like there's a certain channel and this one gets played quite a bit. Same thing with 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think the same channel kind of goes back and forth with these two movies, but definitely a very, very funny movie. And that actress that you mentioned, I know there's not too many people, I guess, hype on her working with her, but But she was
That's all I've
definitely fun to watch. And this is probably one of her more enjoyable movies to watch for her.
Yeah,
as well.
for sure.
All right. So next up, I think I have a classic. So unfortunately, we don't have the standalone of the one that I like.
I don't think there is one.
Is there not?
No,
okay.
well, not on Blu-ray. I don't think.
Oh, okay. Well, it would be a new Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So if there is one and we for some reason have missed it, I'd like to know that as well. But a New Nightmare would be my top 10, which is difficult because all these movies are really great. But what I kind of explained to him why I would pick that one would be, I think it was around a time these movies started coming out, a time when I was young, and for some reason that one is the most memorable, and I think the one that ultimately got me pulled in to start watching the other ones, and to really appreciate horror movies. So it's definitely difficult to pick a favorite, but I picked that one because I felt like it introduced me. That one is the one that I remembered most from my childhood that then tied me into really enjoying horror movies. Freddy Krueger, I think, is amazing. I love him. I think he's so fun, so funny.
Such a weird thing to say.
Yeah, it's really weird. And actually, I was telling him, really up until the remake or whatever, I didn't realize that he was a pedophile. That was like, wait, what are they doing to him? And it was like, oh, but he actually really was. Okay. But he's still funny, and I think that it's just so unique and terrifying, his story. I mean, you got this guy that haunts you in your dream. Like, that's crazy.
New Nightmare is just kind of a unique take on it too, because just how the movie's kind of being written as actual movies playing out.
Right.
I almost want to say it's probably the creepiest he looks too when he's in makeup. The way his, it's not really a glove. It's almost like knives out of his fingers in this one. So I think it's definitely the most unique of the.
Yeah. So again, this actually has what, 5?
All the originals.
Yeah. So it has all the originals in it. But if there is a standalone one and we missed it, let us know. But I will be absolutely, I'm sure, first in line whenever that decides to ever come out. So if you've never seen that, which I'm hoping you guys have, give it a watch.
Yeah. At least the first. So next on mine is probably kind of another low-key one, Collateral. I don't know what it is, but just the flow and the vibe of this movie is so cool to me. Michael Mann, of course, who did Heat. He also did that weird Miami Vice movie that came out, which is so-so. But just the way, the city looks, the way it's shot at night just looks so awesome. I mean, Jamie Foxx is killer in this movie. I mean, he's so good. Jada Pinkett Smith's in it. She's awesome, too. Tom Cruise as a bad guy, finally, which is just freaking awesome. And it's just it's true. Just the, kind of like Knocked Up, just the natural dialogue between them two in such a bizarre situation. I mean, there's not necessarily a ton of action, but it's just the way this movie flows is just so cool to me. And not only, just the way Jamie Foxx's character progresses until he basically gets pushed to the edge and then wrecks his own car just to try to kill this dude or to throw off, his next hit or whatever. And not to mention that club scene where Tom Cruise goes in there and just starts lighting everybody up. It's got that music playing in the background, just the way it's shot, the lighting, everything is just incredible. This is a super underrated movie to me, and I love it.
Yes, you do. Yeah, I'd never seen that one either until you introduced it to me. Never even heard of it.
And an awesome soundtrack, too.
Yeah, the soundtrack is awesome. Okay, so next up I have Sinister. I just am a sucker for horror movies. I mean, anything that gives me a chill, or is a little twisted, I'm probably going to enjoy. But I think this movie was just, again, something unique. This guy, I mean,
a writer.
Yeah, a writer, and then, they move into this house, and, his kids start seeing in, weird things and being weird, as does he, and then,
kind of has like a Stephen King vibe to it. also a little bit of a Saw vibe to it. I mean, just
Right.
the way, you know, when he starts watching those tapes.
Right, and seeing the different ways that the families died. And I think, you know, the twist being that, you know, yeah, you can move away from this house, but that's ultimately what's going to be your ending,
Yeah.
is the fact that you moved away from the house to then keep this story going. I just thought that was pretty cool as well, because sometimes that, you know, you think, okay, that's it, like, I'm out of here, like, fine, whatever, you can have your house back. No, that was the problem, and he realizes it, and it's too late. And then the creepier part is their children, like the daughter, like, you know, that scene where she's dragging the axe behind her and setting down the camera to start to, like, chop her family up or whatever. It's like, what in the, like, you know, it's just, that takes it to a whole nother creepy level. I think anytime you have anything going on with kids, like, it's kind of creepy. I mean,
Yeah,
it
but it's
definitely
not-
takes it to a whole nother level.
It's not overdone, you know. It seems like
No.
kind of after The Grudge and The Ring, the creepy kid thing has been kind of a staple, but I feel like it doesn't just rely on jump scares all the time.
Right.
I mean, the way he, you know, just notices the little nuances, you know, during the videos, like when he finds out where I forgot what's the killer's name?
Oh,
Anyways,
I
the actual man who's in here, you know, the way he, like, just finds him in all the videos, and I feel like it makes it creepier that each of those kills seems like something just any random crazy person could probably conjure
Right.
up.
now, when
You know,
they...
unlike that second one
the
where they're like
second
strung up
one-
with alligators jumping out of the water, and, you know, it's like, all right.
The second
dude,
one,
but-
you know, I was so heartbroken because I loved this one so much, and I was so hyped for the next one, and then to see it, like, I'll still watch it. I don't, you know, despise it that much, but it was just like you took something so great and ruined it. And another really exciting thing, during our honeymoon, went to Universal Studios and went to their haunted houses, and in one of the haunted houses, there was Sinister Room, and I just wanted to stay and hang out, but unfortunately, you know, you got to keep moving and go to the next room, but whatever.
The second one just had way too much of him too, but I think this one does a good job. It's there's
Yeah.
actual tension, not just jump scare.
That was one of your big calls of the second one, is like you see his face enough for it to just be creepy. It wasn't like you saw him. I think you said that
What?
you see him way too much in the second one, where in this one you see very little of him, and it's like
mostly in the videos
Yeah.
too. You know, I don't think you actually see him until the end, right?
yeah
Until like kind of the
yes
end reveal.
yeah that's the only time you actually saw him. I think he's carrying the little girl and walking
Yeah.
with the kids, but in the second one I think you see him a little more. That one wasn't too memorable, but yeah, so if you've never watched this, I think it's just I don't know if many people talk much about this one, but I think it's a great scary movie and something just a little bit different. Start with this one. You don't have to watch the second one if you don't want to, but this one's definitely a great one.
Whew. And my next one is an all-time classic, and that's going to be my favorite Star Wars movie, and that's Empire Strikes Back. To me, the best Star Wars movie, Darth Vader, greatest villain of all time. Battle of Hoth at the beginning might be one of the greatest openings to a movie ever. I mean, that scene is so cool. I mean, that's still probably to this day when a new Star Wars game comes out. I remember those old Rogue Squadron games on the GameCube when you got to play the Battle of Hoth and you could drive around the AT-ATs and you could trip them in the cord just like they did in the movie. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. I mean, when I was younger and a Star Wars nut, I'd have the movie on and my little action figures out playing the movie. I mean, it was some real nerdy stuff going on. But, you know, Luke going off, getting his training. I mean, you really get Han and Leia taking their relationship to the next level and really building that chemistry, which they are so funny. Boba Fett, the man, showing up. You know, Han getting frozen in carbonite at the end. Just the showdown between Darth and Luke at the end, and you know, of course, the ultimate, you know, father reveal or whatever. Just so classic. Such a great movie from start to finish.
You're right. I don't know if we have a storm going on or something.
Yeah, thunder or something. Okay.
All right, so next up again, another scary movie. So, The Strangers. I absolutely love this. The idea and the setting of this movie, you're just, you know, really in a house in the middle of nowhere, and, you know, things are maybe disappearing or moving, and you're hearing things. That creepy girl knocks on the door, which isn't really something that many people probably thought much of. I mean, honestly, or maybe you did, because I think I, no matter what, don't want people knocking on my door, especially late at night. But
well, I think just the realism of it, of how it could happen,
Right.
is what makes it scary. Not to mention my parents kind of live out in the middle of nowhere, so it's kind of relatable, pretty creepy.
and I've yet to get him to, watch it out there. So one thing that I have left to do is to watch it out at his parents' house late at night with the lights all off. But he probably thought I was crazy when we first got together, because I would sit in a room by myself if maybe he was playing a game or something, and I'd watch this in the dark, and he walked in and was like, "What? Are you watching this by yourself?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?"
great.
Like, I loved it. I'm in the zone, and I think, basically he said it best, like the fact that this really could happen. There's not anything special. These aren't, made up characters, or, this is something that could really happen, and their masks are really creepy, and, just there's not really anything crazy or unrealistic that they are doing in these movies.
Well, the whole movie is just tense. I think it was, Dead Meat is the one who does the kill counts, and I think he did one on this, and there's only like 2 or 3 kills, so, it's not like a slasher movie where
Right.
people are just dying left and right to keep you entertained. I mean, it's really the tension, and one of those kills is an accidental kill where a good person accidentally shoots another good person. It's not even the people in the mask there for a while. But it's just the tension in the movie just makes it so creepy.
Yeah, and saw the second one recently, and again, some of the stuff I'm sure we'll go over again. Second one was good. I didn't care for it as much.
I liked it.
He liked it. I was just okay on it, and I think it just goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Like, I just really love this one. So all right. So sorry about that, guys.
The storage on her phone was full, and our power went out. So kind of a double whammy.
Oh.
If you can't tell by now, this is amateur hour in here, first video, so
So there might be a weird
It is what
break.
it is.
But yeah, so if
We're just winging it.
Yeah. So if you've not watched The Strangers, I think it's a great one. If you live in the middle of nowhere, even better, in the dark. So yeah, he may not recommend it, but I absolutely do. In the
I
dark
definitely
and
do.
all alone in the middle of nowhere.
Definitely scary, and I dug the second one too. Now, this one to me is the greatest horror movie of all time, and one of the greatest characters of all time. And I'm going to do the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Won't spend too much time on it since she hit on it earlier. Freddy Krueger, he's scary, he's funny, he's crazy. I mean, just so many good scenes. I mean, just the feeling of being vulnerable while you're asleep, and this guy coming after you. I mean, from when you see him down the alleyway and his arms are stretching out, from when he's cutting his own finger off and laughing in front of your face. I mean, just, and we talked about special effects in a few of those other movies, but that scene where she's getting tossed around the ceiling and just getting cut up and getting thrown around.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp getting sucked in the bed and all the blood pouring out. I mean, just good kill after good kill after good kill. Nancy is a killer character. One that I think some of the later Nightmare on Elm Street movies, you like Freddy Krueger so much that you don't care about the kids and you're just ready for him to kill them.
Right.
Whereas Nancy, you actually like and are actually rooting for her to survive.
Right.
And then when she goes all Home Alone on them and sets the traps all around the house, exploding light bulbs and the sledgehammer above the door. I mean, it's just all awesome. I mean, all the boiler room scenes and stuff like that. It's just awesome. His makeup's awesome. Robert Englund is just the man.
Yeah.
And I actually am not. I don't hate the remake. I actually kind of like the remake.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people, like to dump on it. Is it as great as this one? No. I think it's Jackie Earle Haley who's Freddy in the new one. I thought he had a pretty cool take on him. I thought some of the CG kind of messed up that. When they tried to recreate him coming out of the wall above her.
Yeah.
CG looks horrible in that. But this movie, my favorite horror movie of all time.
All right. Another horror movie. So I think we really like horror movies here, but I have The Conjuring. Kind of a movie that just kind of came out of nowhere. I think at a really good time when horror movies just kind of seemed to be so-so. I don't feel like there was just many super awesome things coming out around that time. Insidious was out, but I didn't really care for the first one so much until really the end. Like, I need to get it going. Let's go. And I felt like that movie took too long. So, but Insidious is great. Love it. Especially the second and third one. But The Conjuring, I think the story is just so cool. I think, I mean, really, The Conjuring 2, I don't know if I'd say that I like The Conjuring 2 better. I picked this one just because it, I think, was such a great introduction into that world. So some of my choices may not be so much because it's my favorite out of the two, but more so, or three, or whatever it may be, but because it introduced me to that. And I love anything that kind of gets you hooked enough to stay invested and follow along, even better when they're able to follow it up with something amazing. Because in the second one, Valak, the nun, I just wish they would call it Valak, because we need to know its name. That was the whole point of the second one. So the Valak is super creepy. Like, I think that's an amazing character. But I just think that these two have such great chemistry together in these movies, and I think it does a great job of pulling you in to their story as well, and caring about them and seeing the vulnerability of their lives. I think is another great thing to this story. Is I don't know. I don't know really how to explain it. I think just sometimes scary movies, you may not get attached to the characters, and I feel like that a lot of times. I may not be so much attached to the characters, but I really love these characters, and I'm glad that they're keeping the story going, because I think it's an amazing movie, and I love the fact that I love the second one just as much. So that was really exciting, because again, as you can tell with some of these, I'm not a fan of the second ones, but this is one where it's definitely different. I'm super excited for The Nun, and I'm hoping it lives up to The Conjuring 1 and 2.
The second Annabelle is really good too.
Yeah.
First one so.
But the second one was much better on that one. Yeah.
I don't know why, but that scene where they're out and she's getting the sheets down from hanging up from the laundry, and the wind blows and the sheet and it takes the form of somebody.
Yeah.
I just think that's so cool for some reason.
Yeah, that movie just has a lot of really awesome scenes. I mean, even the preview scene where she's, I guess, I don't know if they're playing hide and seek
or
clap. The clap. Yeah, love that scene. So yeah, there's just some really, really fun stuff to these movies, and even more so some fun, spin-offs that they're doing. So if you haven't watched this, I'd say definitely give it a watch. What are you waiting for? A great time.
I think it's hard to. There's so many of those exorcism type movies that it's hard to really kind of stand out.
But they did a great job. Yeah.
So my last one, this is not my favorite movie of all time. Once again, we didn't number these top 10. But the last one I have here is Cloverfield. I think this one sits high on my list just because I had no expectations. And I thought the marketing for this was so cool. I mean, they never showed you the monster, really never. The only clue you had was you knew it was handy-cam from the footage, those kids at a party. All of a sudden they look out and like the Statue of Liberty's heads are rolling down the street. And that's really all you knew. So, I mean, you knew nothing going in. Going in to see it in theater with some friends was such a cool experience. Typically, I'm not a huge, handy-cam type movie. It kind of makes me a little motion sick. Did not bother me in this. I thought the acting's great. I thought the creatures were great. The relationships between the characters were awesome. I thought it was realistic. Just the way they're calling out to their family and the way, it does, the news feeds in between, so you're keeping up, kind of what's going on around the world. I mean, it's just the way they presented this movie, I thought was so cool. And they kind of tried to do it with 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is also a good movie. But for this one, I mean, monster movies are kind of rare these days. We had the Godzilla reboot, a few years ago, but I just thought this movie was so cool. And, and then they have, the little creatures who go and, are burrowing into people. And, you have that hospital scene where everyone's laid out and that other girl gets bit. This movie's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I'd never watched that one until he had me watch it, and it's good, but I think I like 10 Cloverfield Lane a little bit better. I'm not
A lot of people do.
really sure why. I just, I don't really, honestly, even though I've watched it, I don't remember too much about that one. I think the biggest call it is the handy cam, which I'm not a fan of, really, just because of the motion sickness, but maybe I have a little harder time with that, so it was... But 10 Cloverfield Lane, I definitely liked a little more.
And I got so hyped during the Super Bowl where they surprise launched the third Cloverfield, and then everyone just trashed it, and we still haven't even watched it. We started to watch the first 5 minutes, and something came up, and
haven't been back.
We haven't watched.
So my last one, and again in no order, is The Nightmare Before Christmas. I think that this is just a timeless, classic movie. I think that there's a lot of people who really love and still follow and collect things from this. So there'll be, I'm sure, a whole video for this based around the stuff we have as far as collecting goes for this. But such a fun movie. I love any and all things Halloween. I love singing along. I'm definitely very animated, so I definitely, when this is on, I'm singing and all the voices and having a good old time. But Jack and Sally, I think, they're fun, and the mayor is hilarious. Oogie Boogie. Okay, if you've not been to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, you have to go. If they do it again, but Oogie Boogie
Not sponsored by Disney.
Yeah, not sponsored by Disney, but the Oogie Boogie, seeing that live and how they actually had something walking around as Oogie Boogie was amazing. That thing moved in such a cool way that I really believed it was like I was there and that was Oogie Boogie. Like, you wouldn't have been able to tell me that was somebody in a costume. It was that amazing to see. But it's just such a fun, timeless movie. I think I'll forever love this movie, and I think it's just fun, and I just, again, any and all things Halloween, I think, is really exciting. And of course there's some Christmas. I think it's just a fun one because I tend to watch it during Halloween and Christmas. So it's a great movie. I feel like everybody has had to have seen this movie. If you haven't seen it, make time for it. It's definitely a fun one that I feel like you wouldn't regret.
Yep. Well, and I think, the songs are catchy and stuff, so when you're younger you watch it, but it's actually pretty dark for a kid's movie, but the character designs are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just from the mayor to, the Wolfman to, Sally, and, and the way she's getting pieced together throughout the movie is awesome. And just some of the scenery, of course, the famous scene where they're on the mountaintop and the big moon behind them. Oogie Boogie's whole, song, that whole, with the kind of the casino theme is awesome. I mean, just so much to like about it.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I had another thought around it, but yeah, definitely a great movie. Always has and always will be one of my favorites. It's just a really good time. Oh, one of my favorite scenes. You can actually see like the strings attached to the bats in one of the scenes if you pay really close attention. That's just one of my favorite things. It's just something. I don't know if they caught it and left it, but I loved it. I just think that's so cool. It's just a really fun movie. So.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool how they have, like that opening scene where it goes and each holiday has like a different, a different tree with a different door on it and stuff like that.
Part of me always hoped there'd be another set of movies because of that, but I never got it. But that's fine. I'm happy with this one. Yeah. Probably wouldn't like it at this rate that we're going in, so definitely happy with that one. Yep. So. Well, those are our top 10 favorites, and maybe I had 11, I don't know, and honorable mentions. We thought we'd start with that just to kind of give you an idea of who we are, the things that we like and love. Like I said, the next few videos will be top 10 favorites. Next one will either be games and wrestling or pops and collections. We'll figure it out. But either way, just to kind of give you an idea of the things that we were into.
Yep, and once again, this is our first video, so pardon the quality and anything else. We're still getting this worked out, and we didn't intend for this to be so long, but talking about movies is fun, so it just is what it is.
Yeah, so leave us some comments. Any of your favorite movies, we'd love to hear that, and we'd be happy to watch them. There's a whole bunch of movies back here we still haven't watched, so we might already have it and haven't watched it. So let us know some of your favorites, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.